Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're interviewing Dr. Annette Litherland, a tutor here at the Taratei Campus Agriculture Training Centre. So we're going to be asking Annette a question today regarding the feeding of young livestock, how to achieve high performance and high profit. G'day Annette. So when feeding young livestock to achieve high performance and high profit, how would you go around achieving target weights using key performance indicators?
Well, I normally, with a key performance indicator for finishing young stock, I normally have a $1 per kilogram dry matter idea of how much I'm wanting to earn. And to achieve that, I have to have a certain buy-sell margin, and I also have to have a certain live weight gain. So I would set up a target live weight gain and I'd decide what sort of weight that I was going to actually be drafting at. So take the example for lambs. I might buy in some lambs at 30 kilos, and I've decided I'm going to sell them at say 43 kilos, and that will give me the carcass weight that I'm targeting. And maybe that might be worth $20 margin. So then what becomes important is tracking those on and getting the certain live weight gains that I want. And I would have worked out perhaps that I have to grow them at least 150 grams a day, preferably 200 grams a day, to get some really good cents per kilogram dry matter. So then I would just regularly weigh my animals and try and hit the target weights that I've planned out beforehand. Profile put out that is my plan, and then as I come along and weigh those animals, I'll see if they're growing as where I want them to be. So that ensures that if I hit those targets, and well, the price that I sell could be in a bit of a lap of the gods with the schedule changes, but assuming that their schedule, I should then achieve, say, the 20 cents or 20 to 30 cents per kilogram dry matter that I'm looking as my KPI for that finishing operation.
Awesome. So you mentioned you're setting your own KPI by using regular monitoring of weights. So are there any other KPIs you can include other than weighing?
There's all sorts of different KPIs that you can use. Another one is feed conversion efficiency. So how many kilograms of dry matter am I taking to produce kilograms of live weight gain? That's another good KPI that I could consider. So I know that, for instance, that if I grow the animals too slow and more of the energy is going towards maintenance rather than live weight gain, then that KPI will fall off and go down. I also know that if I get, say, my cattle here, if I finish these cattle up to, say, 600 kilos, then a lot of their live weight gain would be fat, and that takes a lot more kilograms of dry matter per kilogram of live weight gain than the fat, and so then the feed efficiency would fall off. So those are some of the KPIs that you can look at in the finishing system.
Well, thanks for sharing that with us, Annette. There you go, guys. We've got an interview there with our tutor, helping us to understand the importance of using KPIs and feeding our livestock efficiently.
The Minder program allows the farmer to enter his optimal pre-grazing cover to create a feed wedge. This is in order to delegate feed management and to prioritize the pasture cover levels in the optimal paddocks, starting from the greatest paddocks through to the lower cover paddocks. So the lower covered paddock pasture may be due to or may need more maintenance and fertilizer to bring the optimal residual in line with the feed wedge.
Hi guys, today we're interviewing Ruben from the Glenside Farm, and the topic today is feeding young stock. So, Ruben,
Yep.
how do you prioritise, or what's your process in feeding young stock?
So with feeding a young stock on a sheep and beef farm, the key is to be feeding them quality feed,
Yep.
high ME feed, and plenty of it, really, is the simple way of explaining it. Young stock don't do very well on poorer ME types of feed, whether it's pasture or whatever it is, so quality and regular monitoring of the animals themselves through weighing of them monthly, depending on what you're doing. That helps reach those target weights. For example, finishing lambs, we might be weighing them every 2 to 4 weeks.
So you're looking mainly around the quality over quantity in feeding young stock?
Yeah, got to have quality first, and then also got to have enough of that quality feed to feed however many animals you have. So feed budgeting, as with any farming with livestock, is a vital part of it. So regular monitoring of your pasture covers, so you can make those decisions, have a feed plan, and having quick rotational grazing where they're getting a fresh pick every couple of days, so it might be 20 or 30 day rotation at its quickest. The stock would do the best. Yeah, so that's one way of approaching it. Yeah.
Thanks for that. So there we've had a brief input on how Glenside runs their feeding of young stock. Thanks for that, Ruben. Back again at Glenside Farm, we're just showing the difference between the different types of pasture that are fed to young animals. Here we have rate, very high ME, and as Ruben said in his interview, it's more quality over quantity, particularly for feeding young stock. So we're going to go over and have a look at the plantain paddocks next. Right, back at Glenside Farm, just getting a sample of plantain, which is once again a high ME value. So once again, it's quality feed over quantity. In your experience in farming, how have you benefited from crossbreeding your livestock?
Crossbreeding is one of those things. One of the biggest things that we have, especially in the cattle industry, is that we have bred our beef cows not to really milk. We've bred them for beef, that's sure. But we've forgotten about the important trade of why mum's there, and that's to produce milk. We can get a lot better growth rates out of our beef cows by crossing them with terminal sires, that's cool. And then part of that terminal sire is to make sure that she produces milk. Young stock grow on milk production, especially in the first 2 months of their life, and that's when they set down a lot of the basis of where they go. So we need to make sure that mum produces enough milk. Now to do that, we can introduce a portion of Friesian and a portion of Kiwi Cross. Why have we got the dairy industry? The dairy industry is very good at producing milk. So in getting them to produce milk, we have enhanced their ability to be able to feed their calves at a better rate. If they can do that, we're going to get better at the end. One of the aims should be that we remove from a lot of our heavy country to save the soils going backwards, is to make sure that we get those cattle beasts off in a killable weight by 20 months of age, 22 anyway. Don't take them through that second winter. If we can do that, then we're going to do a lot better. But that will mean not using our cows as vacuum cleaners, It will mean that we use our cows on good quality pasture, well matured pasture, growing heaps of grass, because remember, a farmer, his main job is to grow grass, and how we harvest that grass is important at the end of the day. We can't use our cows as vacuum cleaners. We need to use them as grass harvesters and feed them like dairy cows. A dairy cow will produce, quite simply, 25-30 litres of milk a day, and that's what a beef cow needs to be up near doing, so that the calf has plenty of milk to eat. They'll soon do it. When we first brought our Belgian Blues out to New Zealand, one of the things that we were very aware of, we used the Hereford dairy cross cow because she produced heaps of milk. Those calves grew at 4 kilograms of live weight per day, and so in other words we could get the weight on. But we had to feed those cows like milking cows. We had to have them there with a lot of that milk in them. Those calves would drink 20 to 30 litres of milk per day. So we knew that, and that's what we catered for, and that's what we did. So we could sell those calves at 400 kilograms at 9 months of age. And that's what it's all about. No mucking around. If you want to get the results, you've got to go chasing it. Don't worry about this. There's other things that are there. We've got to learn from what they do in Ireland. We've got to learn different systems of how we're going to do it, which is in England. And they use a lot of crossbreds and a lot of terminal sire stuff. If we are chasing the beef market, if we're chasing other markets, that's the line. But the beef market is the one that pays the bills. And that's why we're in farming.
Thank you, Alistair.
Pleasure, sir. You have a good day.
You too. Have a good weekend.
I will do that.
G'day guys, we're back again with a interview, interviewing one of our expertise members by the name of Paul, and we're going to be talking about feeding crops effectively, including transitioning. So today we have Paul. G'day Paul.
G'day Marco.
So when looking after young stock and feeding young stock, what would be your priority around feeding crops effectively?
So there's two aspects you probably want to consider. Is firstly getting them onto the crop, and then secondly is a bit of an angst between getting a high utilisation out of the crop, but the more you eat of the crop, actually the more of the poorer quality part of the crop the young animal has to eat that affects its performance. So there's those two aspects. So transitioning on, that's something you want to do slowly over a period of time, because the rumen is full of different bugs, use a better word, and if an animal's been on a ryegrass, white clover pasture, the bugs that perform best with that type of feed dominate in the rumen. If you suddenly change the feed to, say, a brassica type crop, there'll be the wrong proportion of those bugs in the rumen, so they get, for use of a better word, a tummy upset, and that puts them off feed, and that'll affect their performance, because the idea with young stock is you put them on there because you want them to grow fast, to achieve a live weight target, whether that's for slaughter or for breeding, etc. So you want to transition them on to there slowly, so that their rumen slowly adjusts, so you don't get a point or period of time where they don't eat and therefore perform poorly and don't grow, and therefore over the whole feeding period, when they're on the crop, if you include the transition period and the grazing period, you actually may be not any better off if they don't grow for a period and then grow well. So if you slowly transition them on over a week or so, and that might be just offering them start with a few hours a day to that herbage, till they get used to it, and then once you're fairly comfortable with grazing it freely, then they can go onto the herbage full time. And then in terms of, generally you're choosing these crops for, depending on whether it's in the winter or the summer, because they're a high quality and a lot of volume, whereas your ryegrass white clover may not give you that in the winter or the summer. So you want to make sure they're getting volume, and you want to make sure it's quality. So if you think about your crop, whatever it is, the further you graze down the sward towards the base, you're getting into the poor quality, lower ME, higher fibre content, lower ME, so for everything they eat, they get less energy, so they grow slower. Higher fibre content takes longer to go through, or it takes longer, to go through the rumens. That affects their intake. So often if you're driving around and you see farmers and you look at crops, you think, oh, that's great utilisation. It is. However, those last few days, those animals being forced to eat lower and lower, each bite gets smaller, so what they can eat in 24 hours is decreased, plus the quality's down, so you don't get the performance. So there is that, you've got to remember about that issue when dealing with crops.
So it's definitely a priority in transitioning.
And then you've got to make a decision about how important it is for you to utilise all the crop, or if your main aim is to get the high performance. And maybe what you do is you have the lambs on it, young stock or calves on it for a period of time, and as the sward goes down, you maybe look at older stock to clean up, you get your total utilisation.
Well, thank you for that, Paul.
No problem.
There we have it, guys, a brief interview with our friend Paul on helping us to understand the importance of feeding crops effectively and including transitioning young stock onto crops. There we have it.
Systems. How do you use different farming systems for achieving high performance and high profit in your young stock?
Young stock. So probably two angles to that, Marco. So the first one is that we talk about quality and quantity. So if I talk about pastures and forages, so pasture being ryegrass and clover, forages being chicory, plantain and clover. So they're sort of herb mixes, I guess. So we've got a key focus on quantity of dry matter, but also on quality. And quality, when I refer to as energy or ME of those forages. So in terms of our sheep breeding operations here on the Tawatahi farms, we look to achieve right from birth. So we want to make sure that ewe is in good body condition, that she is going on to good covers at lambing time, and by good covers I mean a minimum of 1,200 kilos of dry matter, and that as she goes through to peak lactation, that she's always got good grass and good quality growing underneath her. And so once she drops off from peak lactation, we then get into the situation where we're actually managing the lamb more than the ewe. And so that focus there, we start shuffling stock around, taking some out of this paddock and putting it into here, etc. They're all set stocked as a single, twin or triplet, so again we modify our stocking rate to match the demands of that ewe and those lambs. We also lamb ewes on plantain and clover, and that provides, particularly young ewes, young hoggets, and that provides a significant boost in terms of the quality of that feed for those young stock. And that's as much about maintaining the quality or the growing of that young hogget as well as her lambs. And so along with that, the key, once we get through to that weaning period, that we then continue those young stock, if they're finishing stock as an example, we then continue on and monitoring that pasture quality. Not so much the quantity, but more the quality. And that will give us high growth rates. And so when we talk about efficiency, it's about that animal being on our property for the shortest amount of time. So the most profitable lamb is the one that goes to the works or the meat processor off its mother. And then, so we talk about average days to slaughter post-weaning. And so the shorter that period can be, means the faster that lamb has grown and eaten less feed. So those are the two key things: quality, quantity and efficiency.
Would that same system relate to the finishing of beef?
Yes.
As well?
Yeah, absolutely.
So pretty much with the beef, put them on to high quality pasture, so the lesser time on the farm is higher profit for
absolutely.
business.
Absolutely, yeah.
Excellent.
So think of it as a factory. How long is it taking me to produce a widget or whatever, or a lamb or a steer or whatever? So the less time that I've got that animal on my property, the more profitable, the more efficient that animal is. And then I've got other options. I can start either buying in more animals or I can look to do other things. So, yeah.
Thanks for that, sharing those different systems with us today, Paul. Just looking into the second question, how do you use the integrating dairy grazing into the sheep production?
It's a good question, Marco, from the point that they can be quite conflicting. And so particularly with dairy heifers, depending if it's a May to May or they turn up as a 100 kilo calf, etc., and then we're obligated to take them through. It can be very good. It's very good for cash flow. So on a monthly basis, we're getting paid by the owner of the livestock. But they do tend to compete with other classes. So we've really got to alter our farm system. So we need to change. We either need to get rid of some cattle or some sheep to allow those animals to come in because they do need priority. And quite often with dairy heifer integration, the owner of that livestock will require set targets to be reached. So they require a lot of monitoring, they require a lot of high quality feed to get to those good mating weights. Because what research has shown that once the dairy heifer achieves her optimal weight for mating and then she goes into milk production, she's a more valuable animal. So it has a real value attached to it. And so again, so that we talked about plantain and clover before, we've got that conflict between, do I put the dairy heifers on it, do I put the lambs on it, do I put the ewes on it? So because we can't not achieve those gains for those heifers. Does that answer?
Yeah, so it's kind of weighing up which is more profitable.
Exactly.
And which is going to work in the farm system.
Exactly.
Oh, excellent. Hey, could I come back and interview you again?
No, absolutely, mate. No
Okay.
worries.
Thanks for that, Paul.
No, all good.
There you go, guys. There's some information on how Taranaki Agriculture Sheep and Beef Manager Paul Crick manages the farming systems for grazing dairy and integrating dairy grazing into sheep production. Hey guys, welcome back. We're interviewing Chrissy Jordan, a Taranaki tutor today. And hi Chrissy.
Hello.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. So how do you maintain the quality of your pasture when feeding your young livestock?
So to maintain pasture quality, we've got a two-pronged approach.
Yep.
We have got some cattle that we use to eat the older stemmier grass up. And for the rest of the time, we use a tractor with a topper that would go around and remove the stemmy old grass so that the nice young grass could come through underneath.
Oh, awesome. So you're using cattle and machinery to keep the quality of your pasture?
That's right, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
wow. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for that, Chrissy. Well, there we go, guys. There's a little bit of input how we can maintain the quality of our pasture by using machinery to top the pasture and also cattle. Thanks for that, Chrissy.
You're welcome.
Hi Annette, how does the Minder program work for increasing the profitability of your livestock?
Well, we'll just look at the aspect of young stock, Marco.
Yep.
So for young stock, what we want to do is we want to, at puberty, we want them to be 50% of their mature weight. We want to mate them at 60% of their mature weight, and we want them to calve down at 90% of their mature weight.
Yep.
And the national herd has all sorts of different cows in it. They have Jersey cows, which are quite small animals, and right up to the Friesians, which are really big cows. And increasingly our herds are a mixture of cows. You can have Jersey cows and Friesian cows and any sort of crossbred in between. So it becomes quite difficult. We used to just have a target mating weight of say 310. But these days what we do is we look at the individual mature weight of the animal. So if we look at the distribution of mature weights of cows in the national herd, and this is live weight, and the number of cows, what we find down here, this is the Jerseys down here at the lighter weights, and we have the Friesians up here at the higher weights. The actual average weight, mature weight of the national herd is 503 kilos. So what Minder does is gives an estimate of the breeding value for mature body weight relative to the 503 average. So for instance, the breeding value of a particular cow, the live weight, might be minus 10 kilos. That means the target live weight for that individual cow, the mature weight that we're aiming for, is in fact 493 kilos. In the same herd, there might be a cow that has a breeding value, say, of plus 20. which means that that animal will be 523 kilos at mature weight. So if our target for optimal conception rate and optimal cycling is 60%, that means this cow has to be heavier at mating than this one. So the 60% will be 60% of the 593. This cow would have to be 60% of the 493. So what MINDA does is for each individual animal, it'll get a breeding value, and then you get a live weight gain profile for each individual animal to get it to hit that 60% target weight. So that means every animal, individual animal, can hit the weight that it needs to at mating. So this makes it much more precise, and you can track, MINDA tracks them along, and you can see which animals have fallen back, and that can be an indicator that there's some health issue with the animal, or you can see your overall target, whether you're overall 10 kilos ahead and you're going well, or you're falling behind on all of them. So what MINDA does with the electronic EID tags enables you to get every individual animal hitting the target that you need, and that's how MINDA can contribute for young stock.
Parasite management. A usual way to manage parasites on a sheep and beef farm is to first put the cattle on the pasture first. By doing that, the cattle take off the top of the pasture where the parasites are found mainly at the tops of the pasture. So when the cattle take off the tops of the pasture, you then follow the cattle system by sheep mobs. Because the sheep have smaller mouths, they're able to eat the high, smaller leaf pasture on the bottom. So if the cattle have come in and they've eaten the top parasites off the tops of the pasture, it minimises the risk of parasites affecting the sheep mobs. So there's one way in how sheep and beef farmers can manage parasites. Further on in this video we'll be looking into drenching sheep and pour on drenches on cattle, and also the procedure on how to weigh cattle to get the right amount of drench to prevent parasites affecting the livestock.
To detect the parasites within your young livestock, a fecal collection can be conducted by gathering the fecal matter from the young livestock, placing the fecal matter into an airtight bag, and then placed into a chiller bin to be sent to the vet for a total fecal egg count. Drenching techniques.
Unplunge.
Boron drench for cattle. Take your mob to the yard. When your mob get to the yard, you need to weigh your young livestock to get the right weight ranges to apply the correct amount of drench. When all your young livestock have been weighed, it's now time to administer the drench with the right calibration or level of drench. Firstly, place fingers on roof of the mouth of your young livestock. The animal will keep mouth open while you apply the oral drench at the correct calibration. Count mob and record treatment. This has been a Straight Into Farming production. My name is Marco. I hope this has been an educational experience for you on how to raise young livestock to gain high profitability and high production.
Yep. Yeah, that'll do. Have a conversation. Oh, well, with the conversation I played.
Yeah, no, that's cool. You play, we'll have a cup of tea if you want.
No, it's quite distracting. Of course, there's a lot of people, but I do this.
It is filming.
Hey? Oh! It's filming!
It is.
Oh, okay.
Hey guys, welcome back. We're here and we're interviewing Annette Litherland. I'm sure to hear it.
Do you want me to do that again?
Hey guys, welcome back. We're here and we're interviewing Annette Litherland. I'm sure to hear it.
Do you want me to do that again?